Hey guys, and in this video covering the OCR A-Level Psychology Specification, the options of applied psychology paper, and the forensics option, we're going to talk about minority influence in the jury room. Now, I want to say the things that I always say in these videos. Number one, I know not all of you are interested in psychology videos, so there are more tech videos coming soon. I actually just uploaded a tech video yesterday, obviously, depending on when you're seeing this, but I am still doing the tech videos. So, what we're going to talk about today is how a minority can influence a majority in a jury context, and what it takes for that to happen, what they have to exhibit. So the study for this is Nemeth and Watchler, 1974. Of note, just a little bit of background, you might also want to look at the Ash study, 1955. That's become a classic study. What he did was showed arranged for a naive participant to be shown 3 lines, and they always chose the wrong answer, and he would if the majority, if the size was more than 3, that would alter his perception. But in this study we're talking about minority influence. So Nemeth and Watchler, 1974. We'll first follow the same format that we always have. We'll talk about what they did, and then we'll talk about some evaluation points, because you need to know that for the exam. So their aim was to investigate the influence of perceived autonomy, so that's a perception that someone else has got control, and consistency on minority influence. So they were asking, does being consistent and having power help to make a minority influence a majority? And the perception of power was in some of the trials, in the groups of 5 participants, they were told where to sit by the experimenter, and when the stooge of the experimenter, who wasn't conforming to the majority, when he was seated by the experimenter, he didn't have as much influence. But when he was seated on his own, when he chose where to sit, he did have he chose where to sit. He did have influence. So the aim was to investigate the influence of perceived autonomy, and in this case choosing where to sit at a table, and consistency on minority influence. So it was a laboratory experiment as a mock trial, and what happened was the groups of 5 participants saw the evidence individually and were asked to return a verdict. And in this case, it was a trial of someone who was injured, and the participants were asked to come to an individual assessment and then deliberate on how much compensation they thought they should receive. And the difference was that they assessed the difference by assessing the difference between what the participant came up with on their own and what they did after discussing it with the jury. So it was, the participants were groups of 5 adult participants, 1 being a stooge of the experimenter, drawn from an adult sample of students. So what did they do? Well, they heard the facts of the case, and then they were asked to reach a verdict on their own as to how much compensation they believe the victim should receive. And I'm just going to have to look at my notes for this. On their own, most of the participants showed between a range of $10,000 and $25,000 for compensation, but the students of the experiment suggested a figure of $3,000. So obviously a big difference. So can he influence the rest of the majority and change their minds of what they came up with on their own? And how did he do that? Well, the groups had to deliberate, and after hearing the facts, everyone made an individual decision. That's where that 10 to 25,000 comes from. And then this is the critical bit. They were taken to another room where there was a rectangular table. So obviously it was the 4 student participants and then the student of the experimenter. And in some of the trials, they were sat at a long table with two seats at either side of the table and one at the head of the table. So in some of the trials, the student was told to sit at the head of the table by the experimenter, and in some of the trials, he chose to sit at the head of the table. So, predictably, when he was consistent and chose to sit at the head of the table, he was able to convince the rest of the people to go down to his $3,000 rather than the $10,000 to $25,000 that they had originally thought. But what as part of the results, what did he have to do? Well, the results found that the student exerts influence when he is consistent and he has perceived autonomy, so perceived control. He has control of worry 6. That's when he's most powerful. Measured by the differences between the original independent verdicts and the later verdicts. So if he was able to change their verdicts, and interestingly, when he is influential, the effects that he was able to his confidence and his control over the rest of the people's decision making, if you like, carried over onto a second case. So let's talk about some evaluation issues. Well, with any of these experiments with mock juries, ecological validity is always an issue because it wasn't a real case and it wasn't in a real jury, so the participants might not be behaving as they normally would, which is what ecological validity means. Because obviously, if you're debating over a real person's life, then you're gonna think about it more. We've also got some issues with confounding variables because the differences between the two verdicts might not just be influenced by the influence of the stooge, which was what was examined in this research. It might also be the participants just change their mind because of other factors, but not the stooge. You've got some reliability issues there. In terms of validity, we're pretty good, and in terms of ethics, we're pretty good as well. This definitely supports a situational argument for behaviour, in that our behaviour is controlled by the situation and and not our own free will, because based on whether the student was told to sit there by the experimenter and whether he remained consistent, that was what changed the participants' minds. So definitely supporting a situational partner. So we've got ecological validity, we've got no ethical issues, we've got we've got some slight reliability issues. It might not just be the influence of the stooge that made it happen. We've got it was an independent measure design. Some of them were in half of the trials. The experimenter told the participants where to sit, and half of them they didn't. So they were using different students for each trial. So all the people in the place where the participant was told where to sit might just be more suggestible than the other people. So again, reliability issues. We might not be able to generalise the results. That there were also all students, so the students might be not representative of the rest of the population. What about usefulness? Well, usefulness is an interesting issue here, because you don't usually want one in a jury. You don't usually want one person to have the say over everything, because because that might be representative of what everyone else thinks. So this study would suggest that you, when putting people in a jury room, you avoid tables that give one person the autonomy, and sit them round a round table. So one person's not at the head, and then the other people are at the sides. If you sit them in a round table, some of the people will be less autonomous. So that was Nemeth and Watchler, 1974, effective minority influence on jury decision making. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. My website address is down below, tom-rogers.com, if you want to go and check that out. I've got a whole bunch of interesting content coming up, both psychology videos and tech content, so definitely stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and remember, if you want to exert influence, choose where to sit at the table. With that, see you next time, guys. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.